ready to go, and it's the Sam Amick Show being brought to you by all your Jiffy Lube locations in the greater Sacramento area.
Sam Amick
is with us now. Good morning, Sam.
Gentlemen, what's going on? What are you complaining about me, Dave?
No, it's just, big athletic writer. Now you're you already were, but now you're pretty much the senior. I mean, you are the franchise player at the Athletic now, and I think you know that. So when it comes to I'm in Denver, I'll do it on the phone. It's like, all right, it's fine. We're just surprised you haven't canceled your contract yet. And part of that's because you went to high school with one of our best friends and our lovely sponsor of this segment, Jiffy Lube, as Jason just said. But we'll take you any way we can get you, Sam.
If I say Jiffy Lube like 5 times in the spot, I think Matt will forgive me. So how about that for negotiations?
If you say Jiffy Lube 5 times, I think he appears. I think that's how it works. Like Beatles.
Well, the truth is, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to start out. So go ahead. The truth is what?
Oh, no. So I was just going to make fun of myself for operator error trying to get the video going. I gave it a good go, and we're going to have to do it the phone.
Well, I'll ask you then, we talk about the NBA season, and specifically we're talking about opening day for the Kings, which of course we will get to. But for you, Sam, let's just delve into the life of a writer as we often want to. You get about a month off. And then, and of course, in this case, you were in France for like a month doing the Olympics. But as you lead up to the season, is there ever are you doing last minute stuff with the family? I know you got one off to college now. I know you're used to the change, but it's still quite a change for you as a husband and a dad. Now you're going to be gone a bunch.
Yeah, no, it's an adjustment for sure. It's honestly the ramp up in the work is the biggest thing. Like, this morning, for example, right before jumping on with you guys, I'm talking to the NBA about the Sixers investigation into Joel Embiid's, health and his absences. So you have that story. You have, because I'm in Denver, I'm connecting with somebody from the Nuggets this morning to grab coffee and tweeting out a story on Anthony Davis and the Lakers that I wrote yesterday. So admittedly, like that ramp up, especially in the regular season, because we've been working for a month or so already in the preseason, but the hugest difference is that things matter now and things are real. You go from trying to create content and come up with ideas early on to all of a sudden trying to keep up and react. And then to your point on the family front, I mean, I'm blessed to have a job I enjoy and provide and all those good things. So, everybody knows the deal, but it's a different juggling act for sure.
So, Sam, you're in Denver. I know Denver plays their opener tonight. They got OKC. Is there a specific, those are two teams figuring to do very, very well again in the West. Is there a specific angle you're looking at, storyline, or see what develops? Like, what's the thought process behind being in Denver today?
So, Jay, it kind of becomes a nonstop studying of the schedule where I'm trying to connect with as many teams as possible. Let's just say over the first month. And when I looked at Denver's schedule, and honestly, I didn't really figure this out till a few days ago, I realized that based on some other trips I had that I was going to go 5, 6, 7 weeks without seeing the Nuggets if I didn't get out to this opener. And I'll start with them. I just find their situation interesting, and I don't know what I'll write, but I'm trying to learn more about, how they're feeling about their status as title contenders, and the backdrop being Nikola Jokic being an all-time player who is in his prime, and they've lost some guys to free agency the last couple of years, and they've had a front office change that some folks have been critical of some of the work that's been done. I think some of the work that's been good has been overlooked. So, Jamal Murray, what's he going to look like? So the Nuggets are interesting. And then OKC, which admittedly, I just haven't spent a ton of time around since their rise. They're going to be a big story all year because they might have, they could be in the finals this year and want to get a look at them too.
Is this a revenge game for Russell Westbrook, Sam?
What's the revenge for? He's very upset with them for giving him the keys to the city for 12 years.
Right. He's now Mr. Sixth Man, but he just adds, obviously, in all seriousness, he adds a little bit of depth to that team. It is a weird one, and it almost seems like if they don't win a championship this year, I feel like we're going to hear the whole Michael Malone on the hot seat thing again.
I mean, I think he has 3 years left. So, I mean, they extended him. Now there are some funky vibes. I mean, you have, Malone being, notoriously intense and fiery. And yes, if you then, let's say they don't win it, they fall well short, then you're talking about, a few years since the glow of the championship and whatnot. So who knows, stranger things have happened. But yeah, I'll be honest with you. I hate admitting this. I literally hadn't even thought about the Westbrook thing until you just brought it up, which kind of shows you how far he's fallen, that he's not kind of top of mind. But yeah, it should be fun.
Sam, as you start a season, you kind of said how you're going to try to track a lot of these teams and follow teams. Do you have storylines right now that are intriguing you? You already brought up the one that may become something here with Philly, but I'm not sure how that will all go. But just some storylines going into the year that really intrigue you?
Let's see. I mean, yes, I'll probably at some point here be writing about the officiating, which, it's not a new development as much as trying to go deeper on the league's decision to kind of let defense be part of the equation again, which I like. A lot of people like, and some of the backstory of how they got there is something I look forward to writing. And it is going to continue, which is for the fans, I think, kind of worth noting. The Sixers thing, I do think is going to become a bigger story because the thing there is that, Joel Embiid was not hurt during the Olympics. He wasn't hurt in the preseason, and then publicly coming out telling ESPN he's never going to play in back-to-backs again. That creates a major problem for the league where the other 29 teams, are then saying, well, if he's going to do it, then why can't we? Whether it's, a Kawhi Leonard type player or what have you, like just prioritize the playoffs and play half the time during the regular season. Sounds great. And they were so brazen about their messaging publicly that they're just kind of begging the league to investigate. And I don't know how the league's going to handle it, but, we're going to have that load management conversation again. From there, just first week action stuff, Boston just taking it to the Knicks and declaring that not only are they the front runners here, but Jason Tatum, who had a terrible summer, looking like that guy again. I didn't see that coming, to be honest with you. So we can keep going, but there's a ton going on.
Also, I don't like to give you stories because I know you pick them up, but LeBron James's son is playing with him on the Lakers.
He is. I've heard you talk about this. Yes. My favorite comment today in my Anthony Davis column is I took some pride in it. Was somebody with their tongue in their planted in their cheek said that writing about Anthony Davis without highlighting Bronny James is just a disrespect to the young man. So how dare I write about the franchise centerpiece? But I was there the other night. With this history as a father, I think we've talked about it. Like, I think it's neat. I kind of liked it. And then I admittedly am turning a bit. So now I'm starting to get uncomfortable with what it's going to look like this year. I don't think either one of my sons would want to be coworkers with me for an entire year. Like, I'm not even trying to, you guys know this, like your kids get tired of you. Like, and then they're going to do stuff that pisses you off and you're going to say it in front of their other coworkers. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure, how much Bronny's going to enjoy this. I'm starting to kind of feel bad for him.
Well, I mean, obviously I understood the moment. In the moment, I'm with you, Sam. I think the moment was cool. They had the Griffies there. You kind of knew he was going to play, but it was like, hey, 3 minutes. Let's get him in. Let's get the moment. And then it almost felt like the Lakers are now, and maybe Redick in the front office, let's move on. I mean, do you think he's even really going to be a part, not even a big part, any kind of part of this team, really?
I don't know. They're not really being all that forthright. When people ask those kinds of questions. In fact, there was some sense the other night that they even kind of acted like it was all up in question behind the scenes, like, oh, we're not even sure he's going to play. And then it looked obviously very scripted when he did play, and LeBron even put on social media that Hollywood couldn't write this kind of script. So, he did instead. So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go, but the basketball people certainly were not impressed, with Bronny and his short stint, or, nor during the preseason. They put up some counting stats in that last game, but I think everybody agrees that he should be in the G League grinding, not kind of sitting on the bench for the entire time and maybe getting a cameo every so often with the big league club.
Sam Amick of The Athletic joining us. The Athletic, of course, the premier sporting publication out there, a far, far smaller and less quality-filled publication recently. I won't name them. Named Golden One Center as the number one arena in the National Basketball Association. My question for you, Sam, is that being said, and there's a lot of buzz about that here locally, you've been to every arena in the NBA. Where does Golden One Center rank when it comes to best arenas in the NBA for you?
It's funny because, first of all, and this, I don't have to be as anti-ESPN anymore because Shams is my guy, and
all right.
That doesn't change just because he abandoned me.
Yeah, right.
But I heard you guys talking about that this morning. You were helping me, as I brushed my teeth and got ready for the day as I was listening in. And I kind of was happy to hear it because that is my opinion. But because I live there, I obviously have so much more face time with the arena, if that makes sense, and than other arenas. But I'm not shocked by it, especially when you add, to me, the X factor and the tipping point was clearly the beam and the uniqueness of kind of what that represents and the excitement that it created. Just the other day when Anthony Slater and I wrote about it, the Kings, we were going through the story and making final edits, and I had a beam team reference, and he was giving me a hard time. He's like, man, you love that beam. He's like, you love to drop the beam team, So not shocked. It's a wonderful arena. They deserve a ton of credit for, not only pulling it off and obviously saving the city or saving the team like you guys talked about, but it's just a good experience. The first preseason game, I got a text from a couple of friends from high school who were up in one of the suites. I ended up going to visit with them and spent the whole second half up there, and I got a different vantage point that I enjoyed and was impressed. I mean, everywhere you go in that building, it's a fun place to watch a game. The entertainment stuff is top notch with Scotty Moak and Mo Brazelton and that crew doing their thing. So congrats to them. That's a great honor.
Sam, they'll be there tonight. And one of the things Dave and I were talking about, and others over the last couple of days, is the return of Kevin Huerter. And it does sound, if all things are right, that he may go right back in to that starting lineup. They've got choices. It could be Monk, could be Ellis, who was starting in the preseason. I'd love your opinion on kind of the thought that Mike Brown would put Huerter right back in as that starting two guard.
Well, before I weigh in, again, I'm glad I listened in earlier. Could you please remind me the numbers you guys referenced on Keon's shooting versus Kevin's last year from distance?
Yeah, we were talking about a couple things, and this is called me vamping until I get to those actual numbers. We were talking about how the Kings, after the move to Keon Ellis, had the 12th best defensive rating in the league, and we're actually top 5 over about a 12-game stretch. When you look at, take away minutes and you just look at straight 3-point percentage, Keon Ellis led the team. I mean, I mentioned Jordan Ford, but he didn't play that much. Keon Ellis led the team in 3-point percentage at 41.7%. That compares to Kevin Huerter's 36.1. Huerter had a little over 5 attempts a game to Keon Ellis's 3, but he had a pretty decent amount more minutes averaged per game. And I'm not trying to say one thing or another, Sam. My point was earlier when you were brushing your teeth that, the narrative seems to be that Keon Ellis is this defensive wonder, but kind of a sieve on offense. And when you look at it just analytically on a smaller sample size, that may not be the case. And you're definitely taking a defensive drop off with Ellis out of the starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, your logic is sound. I think the part that I'm surprised by, and I think it kind of is what it is that, having connected with Mike Brown in preseason and gleaned some of his thoughts, like Keon had every chance to go win this job. And I don't want to pretend that I broke down his tape from the preseason. I did not. I'm just reacting to the choices that have been made. But, he was put in a position to succeed. And it really felt like Mike's preference was to go with Keon, with the idea being that, and you hit on this earlier, that like the workload on De'Aaron is so great that they needed to, relieve some of that pressure with the guy defensively next to him who was going to make life easier. And coaching staff is going with her, which it certainly appears they are. Then, I mean, it just kind of is what it is. Like, didn't get the job done in the preseason. That could change. And I also was fascinated by the part of the discussion you guys hit on with, what should their game plan be this season when it comes to, like, within the context of the last 2 years? Do you try to recreate the historic best in the NBA offense of 2 years ago, which means can you get Kevin Huerter back to that level that he was at within this new context? Or are you going to go farther down the track that you tried to go down last year with an improved defense? I don't know the answer because, they do have defensive issues that we are going to see on a nightly basis. And I'm very curious to see kind of where they take it from here.
What's interesting, Sam, I'm thinking about that with, like, let's take Dallas, for example. Like, during the year last year, and I don't know, maybe this is being unfair to the Mavericks. I don't know what their metrics were, numbers-wise, where they ranked amongst the defenses in the regular season, but I thought I didn't think of them as a bad defensive team. I didn't think of them as a great defensive team. But as the year went along, and as we go farther along, and they keep advancing, you're like, man, Dallas is kind of putting it together. And I don't know if that just kind of inherently happens as you go farther, the intensity and just the focus and being sharp. Maybe it just kind of grows that teams become better defensively anyway. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but like by the end, I was like, hey, even Luka's playing some defense here in the finals.
You had me till the end there, buddy. Come on now.
I said some.
Yeah, exactly. No, I buy that. I mean, listen, they made big time roster changes at the deadline that, it wasn't a matter of them just coalescing and finding their identity. I mean, they got Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington, and those were game changers. But generally speaking, I'm buying what you're selling. I think that, you're going to see year number 3 with the Mike Brown defensive system. And also, for what it's worth, the coaching staff, like, and I know this is a tough sell, and this too, Jay, like they almost feel like there's an argument to be made that they had a better year last year than the one before. If you factor in health, stuff that didn't go their way, that's the one thing that does get lost in the conversation about the Kings. They are victims of their own hype from 2 years ago, because winning 48 games should not get you a 3rd seed in the West, but it did. And then everybody had great expectations. But if you really get granular about the 2 years, they made some good strides last year that they're hoping to make this year on the defensive end, especially. So, again, though, you added DeRozan, so that changes things. He's just not a plus defender historically. And we'll see. I mean, I'm dying to see does 0-5 in the preseason matter or not. I know the fans are freaking out. I don't think the staff was thrilled with any of the games other than maybe the Warriors game that they lost, but looked pretty good down in San Francisco. So a lot of question marks.
You're going into this year now, having made the playoffs then getting the injury bug and, making the play-in and losing to the Pelicans for the 50th time that year. And now, and I it's tough asking this question on opening day, but it's why we have you on, Sam. You've got Mike Brown, I think, in a really interesting spot because he just signed an extension. I think it was a 3-year deal. My guess, 2 years guaranteed. And then the last year, you might know more than I on that. Of course, you know more than I on that. But I also kind of got say that again.
No, go ahead. I said I forget what we wrote, to be honest.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I interrupted.
No, that's fine. I feel like if the worst, not the worst were to happen, but if this was another step back, I'm not trying to say that Mike Brown is on the hot seat and could be fired at the end of the year, but am I wrong in thinking that when we look back at everything that happened with Mike Brown and the team this summer, I'm not convinced that Vivek wasn't publicly pressured through some PR hiccups to extend Mike Brown. That was just a very weird thing that happened over the summer. And I just wonder if things go wrong this season, if some of that may not come home to roost.
Man, you know what we call you in the business, Dave? You're just a muckraker, man. Look at you.
I'm not raking muck. Just asking.
I'm kidding. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, there's a hint of kind of accuracy of what you're talking about, but no, I mean, was he publicly pressured into doing the deal? There was a tough negotiation where I think you've got to highlight the fact that, Monty Williams getting that massive deal in Detroit made life, whatever the heck it was, I forget the numbers, but there was a, huge spike in coaching salaries as a result of it. So you had inflation in the market, and you had owners all over the league, not just in Sacramento, wrestling with these new price points. Jamal Mosley, for example, in Orlando got a healthy deal that did become part of the discussion with Mike because Mike actually kind of helped Jamal come up in the business. And there was kind of a sense of like, okay, I'm part of the group that broke the Kings' historic playoff streak, has them going, or drought rather, has them going in a good direction. And I've accomplished a lot, even before this job. Like, there's no way I'm making less than this guy or that guy, and that's kind of how these things go. So it was an uncomfortable discussion. But I'm not going into this season at all anticipating him being in trouble. Now, again, it's sports. Who the hell knows? I do wish that I had our old, story in front of me so I could remember exactly how many years he has guaranteed, but they did recommit to him. And I think, they just had to get through some of the crunchiness of what the price point was going to be.
By the way, Monty Williams is by far the highest paid high school coach in the country at just over $15 million this season and next one the year after, which it's by the way, I can't help it. I root for Monty. I don't care. I'm all for it. I don't care about the Pistons. He has such a heartbreaking, uplifting, amazing story. And I think you and I probably are very similar here in the sense that everything seems to be Monty Williams' fault. And we'll see how Detroit does this year. I wish him nothing but the best. But again, you were asking earlier, that was a $75.8 million contract in which Monty was fired just 1 year into the deal. That is Sam Amick of The Athletic. Please read Sam and all the other wonderful writers at The Athletic. You can also follow him on Twitter as well. We'll have Sam on each and every Thursday at 8 a.m. Throughout this season. Samuel, appreciate it. Have fun in Denver, where it'll be one weather temperature today and another tomorrow, as you know, completely different. Enjoy yourself. Wear a warm coat. We'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it. And briefly, because I'm a man of my word, Jiffy Lube, Jiffy Lube, Jiffy Lube, Jiffy Lube. There we go.
Hey,
and there's Matt Graham. He just showed up.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Sam.
See you, buddy. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube. That is Samuel Amick. We'll take a break when we come back. Jason Ross, the show just keeps going on.